Part 1. The Vampire Lestat. The voice. Years ago I heard him. He'd been babbling. It was after Queen Akasha had been destroyed, and the mute, red-haired twin, Makare, had become the queen of the damned. I'd witnessed all that, the brutal death of Akasha, in the moment when we all thought we would die too, along with her. It was after I'd switched bodies with mortal men and come back to my own powerful, vampiric body, having rejected the old dream of being human again. It was after I'd been to heaven and hell with a spirit called Minok and come back to earth a wounded explorer with no appetite any more for knowledge, truth, beauty. Defeated, I'd lain years on the floor of a chapel in New Orleans, in an old convent building, oblivious to the ever-shifting crowd of the immortals around me, hearing them, wanting to respond, yet somehow never managing to meet at a glance, answer a question, acknowledge a kiss or a whisper of affection. And that's when I first heard the voice. Masculine, insistent inside my brain. Babbling, like I said, and I thought, well, perhaps we blood drinkers can go mad like mortals, And this is some artifact of my warped mind. Or maybe he is some massively crippled ancient one slumbering somewhere nearby, and somehow I telepathically get to share in his misery. There are physical limits to telepathy in our world, of course. But then voices, pleas, messages, thoughts can be relayed through other minds. And conceivably, this poor slob could be mumbling to himself on the other side of the planet. As he had babbled, mixing languages, ancient and modern, sometimes stringing a whole sentence out in Latin or Greek, and then lapsing into repetitions of modern voices, phrases from films, even songs. Over and over, he begged for help, rather like the tiny human-headed fly at the end of the B-movie masterpiece. Help me! Help me! As if he too were caught in a spider web and a giant spider were closing in on him. Okay. What can I do, I'd ask. And he'd be quick to respond. Near at hand? Or just the best relay system in the undead world? Hear me. Come to me. And he'd say that over and over again, night after night, until it was noise. I have always been able to tune him out. No problem. Either you learn to tune out telepathic voices when you're a vampire, or you go straight out of your mind. I can tune out the cries of the living just as easily. Have to. No other way to survive. Even the very ancient ones can tune out the voices. I've been in the blood for 200 years. They've been in the blood for 6 millennia. Sometimes he simply went away. Around the early years of the 21st century, he began to speak English. Why? I asked. Because you like it, he said, in a crisp, masculine tone. Laughter, his laughter. Everybody likes English. You must come to me when I call you, he said. Then he was babbling again in a melange of languages, all about blindness, suffocation, paralysis, helplessness. And it developed into, help me. Again with snatches of helplessness. And it devoted into, help me. Again with snatches of poetry in Latin and Greek and French and English. This is interesting for maybe 3/4 of an hour. After that, it's repetitious and a nuisance. Of course, I did not even bother to say no. At one point, he cried out, beauty, and babbled on incessantly, always getting back to beauty, and always with an exclamation point I could feel like the jab of a finger against my temple. Okay, beauty, so what? I asked. He moaned, wept, went into dizzying, incoherent reverie. I tuned him out for a year, I think, but I could feel him rumbling under the surface, and then 2 years after that, it might have been, he started addressing me by name. Lestat, you brat prince. Oh, get off it. No, you brat prince, my boy Lestat. Then he ran those words through 10 modern languages and 6 or 7 ancient ones. I was impressed. So tell me who you are, or else, I said glumly. I had to confess, when I was extremely lonely, I was happy to have him around. And that was not a good year for me. I was wandering aimlessly. I was sick of things. I was furious with myself that the beauty of life wasn't sustaining me, wasn't making my loneliness bearable. I was wandering at night in jungles and in forests with my hands up to touch the leaves of the low branches, crying to myself, doing a lot of babbling of my own. I wandered through Central America, visiting Maya ruins, and went deep into Egypt to walk the desert wastes and see the ancient drawings on the rocks on the way to the ports of the Red Sea. Young maverick vampires kept invading the cities where I roamed: Cairo, Jerusalem, Mumbai, Honolulu, San Francisco, and I grew weary of disciplining them, punishing them for slaughtering the innocent in their misbegotten hunger. They'd get caught, thrown into human jails where they'd burn up when dawn came. Occasionally, they'd fall into the hands of actual forensic scientists. Bloody nuisance. Nothing ever came of it, but more on that later. The Mavericks, multiplying everywhere, were causing trouble for one another. Their gang fights and brawls have made life ugly for the rest of us, and they think nothing of trying to burn with fire or decapitate any other blood drinker who gets in their way. It is chaos. But who am I to police these preternatural nincompoops? When have I ever been on the side of law and order? I'm supposed to be the rebellious one, l'enfant terrible. So I let them drive me away, out of the cities, and even out from New Orleans. I let them drive me away. My beloved Louis de Point de Lac left soon after, and from that time on lived in New York with Armand. Armand keeps the island of Manhattan safe for them. Louis, Armand, and the 2 young blood drinkers, Benjamin and Sybille, and whoever else joins them in their palatial digs on the Upper East Side. No surprises there. Armand has always been skilled at destroying those who offended him. He was, after all, for hundreds of years, the coven master of the old children of Satan in Paris, and he'd burn those ashes. Any blood drinker who didn't obey the vicious old rules of those miserable religious fanatics. He's autocratic, ruthless. Well, he can have that mission. But let me add here that Armand isn't the moral cipher I once thought he was. So much of what I thought about us, our minds, our souls, our moral evolution or de-evolution, was just wrong. Wrong in the books I wrote. Armand's not without compassion, not without a heart. In many respects, he's just coming into himself after 500 years. And what do I really know about being immortal? I've been in the blood since 1780. That's not very long. Not very long at all. I've been to New York, by the way, to spy on my old friends. I've stood outside their gorgeous Upper East Side dwelling on the warm nights, listening to the young vampire Sybille play the piano and Benjamin and Armand talking by the hour. Such impressive dwellings. 3 townhouses attached to one another and made into a grand palazzo, each with its own Grecian portico and front steps with little decorative iron fencing. Only the central entrance was used, with the bronze name inscribed above the door. Trinity Gate. Benji's the vampire responsible for the radio talk show, beaming out of New York night after night. In the first years, it was broadcast in the regular way, but now it's internet radio and reaches the undead all over the world. Benji's clever in ways no one could have predicted. A Bedouin by birth, brought into the blood at age 12, perhaps, so he'll be 5 feet 2 inches tall and small forever, but he's one of those immortal children whom mortals always take for a diminutive adult. I can't hear Louis when he's spying, or when I'm spying, of course, since I made him, and makers and fledglings are deaf to each other. But my preternatural ears have never been better. Outside their house, I easily picked up his rich, soft voice and the images of Louis in the minds of the others. I could see the vividly colored Baroque murals on their ceilings, or the billowing lace curtains. Lots of blue there. Blue skies with rich, rolling, gold tinged clouds. Why not? And I could smell those crackling fires. The townhouse complex was 5 stories, Belle Epoque. The grand basements underneath, high up there, an immense attic, ballroom, with a glass ceiling open to the stars. They made it into a palace, all right. Armand has always been good at that, drawing on unimaginable reserves to pave his stunning headquarters in marble and antique plank, and to furnish the rooms with the finest designs ever produced. And he always made them secure. The sad little icon painter from Russia, kidnapped and plunged into the West, had long ago embraced its humanist vision utterly. Marius, his maker, surely must have seen this with some satisfaction a long time ago. I wanted to join them. I always do want to join them, and I never do. In fact, I marveled at the way they lived, slipping out in Rolls Royce limousines to attend the opera, the symphony, the ballet, wandering the museum openings together, so well integrated into the human world around them, even inviting mortals to those gilded salons for wine and refreshments, having mortal musicians in to play. How splendidly they passed for human. I marveled that I had never lived that way, ever been able to do it with such finesse a century or more ago. I watched them with the eyes of a hungry ghost. The voice rumbled and bellowed and whispered whenever I was there, rolling their names around in a stew of invective and rumination and demand. One evening, the voice said, "Beauty is what drove it, don't you see? It was the mystery of beauty." A year later, I was walking along the sands of South Beach in Miami when he broke that one to me again. For the moment, the mavericks and rogues had been leaving me alone. They were afraid of me, afraid of all the old ones, but not enough. "Drove what, dear voice?" I asked. I felt it only fair to give him a few minutes before shutting him down. "You cannot conceive of the magnitude of this mystery," he spoke, in a confidential whisper. "You cannot conceive of this complexity." He was saying these words as if he'd just discovered them. He wept. I swear it, he wept. It was an awful sound. I don't glory in any being's pain, not even the pain of my most sadistic enemies. And here was the voice weeping. I was hunting, thirsting, though I didn't need to drink, at the mercy of the craving, the deep agonizing lust for heated, pumping human blood. I found the young victim, female, irresistible in her combination of filthy soul and gorgeous body, white throat so tender. I had her in the fragrant, darkened bedroom of her own lodgings. Lights of the city beyond the windows, having come over the roofs to find her, this pale woman with glorious brown eyes and walnut-shaded skin, black hair, like the snakes of Medusa, naked between the white linen sheets, struggling against me as I sank my fangs right into her carotid artery. Too hungry for anything else. Give me the heartbeat. Give me the salt. Give me the viaticum. Fill my mouth. And then the blood erupted, roared, "Don't rush this." I was victim, suddenly laid waste, as if by a phallic god, slammed by the rushing blood against the floor of the universe. the heart pounding, emptying the frail form as it sought to protect. And lo, she was dead. Oh, too soon. Crushed a lily on the pillow, except she'd been no lily. I'd seen her grimy, petty, purple crimes as that blood made a fool of me, wasted me, left me warm, indeed hot, all over, licking my lips. Can't bear to linger near a dead human. Out over the roofs again. Did you enjoy that voice? Did you enjoy that voice? I asked. I stretched like a cat under the moon. He replied. Have always loved it, of course. And stop all that weeping. He drifted off then. That was the first. He left me. I hit him with one question after another. No answer. No one there. 3 years ago this happened. I was in a wretched state, down and out, disgusted and discouraged. Things were bad all over the vampire world, no doubt about it. Benji, in his endless broadcasts, was calling for me to come out of exile, and others were joining him in that appeal. Lestat, we need you. Tales of woe abounded, and all I could find of many of my friends anymore. I couldn't find many of my friends anymore. Not Marius or David Talbot or even the ancient twins. Time was when I could find any of all of them fairly easily, but no more. We are a parentless tribe, Benji cried over the internet vampire radio station. Young ones, be wise. Flee the old ones when you see them. They are not our elders, no matter how many years they have in our blood. They have refused all responsibility for their brothers and sisters. Be wise. On this dreary cold night, I'd been thirsty, more thirsty than I could bear. Oh, I don't technically need blood anymore. I have so much blood from Akasha in my veins. The primal blood from the old mother, that I can exist forever without feeding. But I was thirsting. And I have to have it to stanch the misery, or so I told myself. On a little late night rampage in the city of Amsterdam, feeding off every reprobate killer I could find. I'd hidden the bodies. I'd been careful. But it had been grim. That hot, delicious blood pumping into me and all those visions with it of filthy and degenerate minds, all that intimacy with the emotions I deplore. Oh, same old, I was sick at heart. In moods like this, I'm a menace to the innocent, and I know it only too well. Around 4 in the morning, it had me so bad. I was in a little public park, sitting on an iron bench in the damp, doubled over, in a bad, seedy part of the city. The late night lights looking garish and sooty through the mist. And all was cold, all over, and fearing now that I was simply wasn't going to endure. I wasn't going to make it in the blood. I wasn't going to be a true immortal like the great Marius or Makari or Maharat or Kaiman or even Armand. This wasn't living. What was I doing? And at that point, the pain was so acute. It was like a blade turning in my heart and in my brain. I doubled over on the bench. I had my hands clasped on the back of my neck and wanted nothing so much as to die. Simply to close my eyes on all of life and just die. And the voice came, and the voice said, But I love you. I was startled. I hadn't heard the voice in such a long time, and there it was. That intimate tone, so soft, so utterly tender, like fingers touching me, caressing my head. Why? I asked. All of them. I love you the most, said the voice. I am with you, loving you now. What are you? Another make-believe angel? I said. Another spirit pretending to be a god? Something like that? No, he said. But the moment he started to speak, I had felt this warmth in me, this sudden warmth, such as addicts describe when they are infused with the substance they crave. This lovely, reassuring warmth that I'd found so fleetingly in the blood, and had begun to hear them, the rain, hear it, not as this dismal drizzle, but as a lovely, soft symphony of sounds on the surfaces that surround me. I love you, said the voice. Now get up, leave this place. You must get up, start walking. This rain is not too cold for you. You are too strong for this rain, too strong for this sorrow. Come on, do as I tell you. And I had gotten up and started walking and made my way back to the elegant old Hotel de l'Europe, Europe, where I was lodged. And I'd gotten into a large, exquisitely wallpapered bedroom and closed the long velvet draperies properly over the coming sun. Glare of the white sky over the Amstel River. Morning sounds. Then I stopped. I pressed my fingers to my eyelids and buckled under the weight of a loneliness so terrible. I would have chosen death then, if only to have such a choice. Come now, I love you, said the voice. You're not alone in this. You never were. I could feel the voice inside me, around me, embracing me. Finally, I lay down to sleep. He was singing to me now, singing in French, singing some lyrics to put to beautiful Chopin Etude Tristesse. Lestat, go home to France, to the Avenue where you were born, he whispered, just as he were beside me. Your father's old chateau there. You need to go there. All of your human beings need a home. So tender it sounded, so sincere, so strange that he would say this. I did own an old ruined chateau years ago. I had set architects and stonemasons to rebuild it, though why I did not know. I saw an image of it now, those ancient round towers rising from the cliff above the fields and valleys where the old days so many had starved, where life had been so bitter, where I had been so bitter, a boy bound and determined to run away to Paris to see the world. Go home, he whispered. Why are you not winking out the way I am, voice? I asked. The sun's rising. Because it is not morning where I am, beloved Lestat. Because it is not morning where I am, beloved Lestat. Ah, then you are a blood drinker, aren't you? I asked. I felt I'd caught him. I began to laugh, to cackle. Of course you are. He was furious. You miserable, ungrateful, degenerate brat prince, he was muttering. And then he left me again. Oh well, why not? But I hadn't really solved the mystery of the voice. Not by a long shot. Was he just a powerful old immortal communicating from another part of the globe by bouncing his telepathic message off vampire minds in between, like light bouncing from a mirror to mirror? No, that was impossible. His voice was too intimate, too precise for all that. You can send out telepathic call to any immortal by that method, of course, but you can't communicate directly, as he had been doing with me all this time. When I woke, it was, of course, early evening, and Amsterdam was filled with roaring traffic, whizzing bicycles, myriad of voices, scent of blood pumped through beating hearts. Still with me, voice? I asked. Silence. Yet I had the distinct feeling, yes, the feeling was that he was here. I'd felt wretched, afraid for myself, wondering at my own weakness, inability to love. And then this happened. I went to the full-length mirror at the bathroom door to adjust my tie. You know what a dandy I am. Well, even down and out, I was in a finely cut Armani jacket and dress shirt. And well, I wanted to adjust this bright, flashing, beautifully hand-painted silk tie. And my reflection wasn't there. I was there, but my reflection, not my reflection. Where is it? It was another me smiling at me with triumphant, glittering eyes, both hands up against the glass, as if he were in prison, in a prison cell behind it. Same clothes, yes. Me down to the last detail of long, blonde, curling hair and glittering blue eyes, but not a reflection at all. I was petrified. The dim echo of doppelganger rose in my ears, and all the horror such a concept connotes. I don't know if I can describe how chilling this was, this figure of myself inhabited by another leering at me, deliberately menacing me. I remained sober-faced and continued to adjust my tie, though I could see no reflection of what I was doing, and he continued to smile in the icy, mocking way as the laughter of the voice rose in my brain. Am I supposed to like you for this voice? I asked. I thought you loved me. He was stricken. His face, my face, crumpled like the little boy about to sob. He put his hands up as if to shield himself, fingers hovering his eyes, quivering. The image vanished, to be replaced by true reflection of me standing there, puzzled, faintly horrified, and not a little angry. I straightened my tie for one last time. I do love you, said the voice sadly, almost mournfully. I love you. And he began to chatter and roar and discourse, and all those vocabularies were suddenly tumbling together, Russian, German, French, Latin. That night, when Benji began broadcasting from New York, he said that things could not continue like this. He urged the young ones to flee the cities. He begged once more for the elders of the tribe to step up. I went to Anatolia to escape it all. I wanted to see the Hagia Sophia again, to walk under those arches. I wanted to wander the ruins of the Göbekli Tepe, the oldest Neolithic settlement ever discovered. To hell with the problems of the tribe, whatever gave Benji the idea that we were a tribe.